Professor Wergeles here. Let's dig into some DOM methods and talk about more details than what we already know. Now, HTML DOM methods are actions you can perform on HTML elements. So I want to do something. I want to retrieve something. I want to change something. Okay, these are actions that I can perform. Now, the properties are values of HTML elements that you can set or change. So we use one common method called getElementById. Okay, that's going to be an action. And I do .enterHTML. That's going to be a property. I'm changing the value. So methods are actions, properties are values. You're going to want to know that for an exam. That is a quiz question and on the exam for sure. Make sure you know that. Now, remember, I have the DOM. The DOM is a programming interface. The HTML DOM can be accessed with JavaScript and with other programming languages as well. In the DOM, all HTML elements are defined as objects. We've seen this several times. I've showed you that in the coding example. We'll see that in the next coding example as well. And this programming interface is the properties and methods of each object. A property is a value that you can get or set, like changing the content of an HTML element. And a method is an action you can do, like adding or deleting an HTML element. Hopefully, you can see the difference. I have properties, which are values, method, which is an action. Okay, I'm going to use that, let's say, with function calls. So let's take a look at an example. Here's an example. I'm going to have the JavaScript is going to use the DOM. It's going to change the content or the inner HTML of a paragraph element with ID equal to demo. So let's see this. Here's my doc type. I have my HTML tag in the body. I have a paragraph tag with ID equal to demo. You'll see there's nothing in the paragraph tag. So this will be the source code. There's nothing in the source code, but I have a script element. The script, which is JavaScript by default, remember, I don't have to specify the type on a script tag because the default is JavaScript. You'll see the first keyword here is document. That's referencing the DOM. I'm going to use the DOM's method, getElementById, where ID is equal to demo. Okay, here's ID equal demo, which is the paragraph tag. So here is my method, and here is a property. So I do dot, that's the dot notation, inner HTML. Inner HTML is a property, and now I'm setting it equal to hello world. So here I just said that I can use the DOM, and DOMs have methods and properties. Methods are actions, properties are values. Okay, so here I'm using a action, getElementById, to change a property to the value of hello world. I'm using the DOM. Document is the DOM. If we go back to the tree, you'll see document's the keyword. I'm using a action, getElementById. That's a method. How do I know it's a method? Because it has parentheses here. Okay, method is a function. So this is a function call because I have parentheses here. And then I do the dot notation, which is exactly right here. But inner HTML does not have parentheses. So I know that's a property, that's a value. Here has parentheses, that's a function call, that's a method. Here it does not, so that's a property, that's a value. So I'm using this action to get the property to set it to hello world. This is a perfect example of using JavaScript to access the DOM that uses a method, an action, to set a property to the value that I specified. So there's actually, even though this is one line of code, there's actually a lot going on here. I have the DOM. I'm using the DOM's method to set a property, but this code is written in JavaScript. Remember, the DOM is language neutral. It doesn't matter what language you use, you can access the DOM. And in this case, I so happen to be using JavaScript. So in this example, getElementById is a method. I know it's a method because of the parentheses here, and it's taking one parameter. I have one parameter here. It's called demo, which is a string. While inner HTML is a property. There's no parentheses. I'm actually getting or setting that property. In this case, I'm setting it because I have the equal symbol to hello world. So here's how you'd want to say this on an exam. Let's say I give you this exact same code. I give you this code on an exam, and I tell you to explain what's happening to me. Here's exactly how I want you to say it. Look here. There's the example we just saw, and here's the example explained. The HTML document contains a paragraph element with ID equal to demo. We see that here in the body. we're going to use the HTML DOM to get the element with ID equal to demo. How do I know I'm using the HTML DOM? Well, here's HTML, here's JavaScript, and I'm using the keyword document. As soon as you see that keyword document, you know I'm using the DOM. So we're using JavaScript, accessing the DOM to change the content, the inner HTML of that element to hello world. This all happens after the HTML code or elements have been loaded into the DOM and the DOM has finished executing. Let's say I put this script in the head section without doing an onload or a function call. The script will load, the DOM has not finished loading, so thus nothing would happen. So you always have to wait until the DOM has finished executing. In this case, we put the script tags at the bottom of the body. So that's going to ensure the DOM is finished executing because there's no HTML content below the script. And that's one advantage of putting the scripts at the bottom of the body. So this is all going to happen after the DOM has finished executing. If we try to run this code before the DOM is finished loading, then ID equal to demo will not be created yet, and therefore nothing will take effect. Now the DOM is when the browser takes your HTML code and executes it. We also call it rendering. The browser is going to render your HTML code, and thus the browser will create a DOM, a document object model of the page. We have paragraph ID equal to demo, which is hello world. If you use the developer tools to check out a visual representation of the DOM, you're going to see paragraph ID equal to demo hello world. That's different than your original HTML or what you'd see in the view source, because if I view source, the paragraph tag will have nothing in it. If I view the DOM, you'll see hello world in it because the JavaScript code has executed after the DOM has finished loading. So it's going to put hello world into the paragraph tag. In the DOM, you'll see hello world. In the source code, you won't, and as well as if you view source on the browser. Okay, because that is an important concept to note. This example is going to be on an exam. It's going to be on a quiz. You're going to be tested over this several times. JavaScript is the language, but we're using JavaScript to access the DOM. The DOM will then grab the ID and change the inner HTML property to hello world. I hope that's very clear. We're going to look at some more examples in the next video. Stick with Professor Wergeles.